Uh, so our first questioner is Todd Koch, who is a leader in the District Council of the International Union of Painters and Allied Trades. No relation to the Koch brothers, by the way, just to be clear.
Thank you for that. Let there be no confusion on that issue, please. Well, Senator Booker, thank you for being here, representing Secretary Clinton today and listening to our issues in Northern Nevada. When I first went to high school, I took classes that I believe were going to lead me to a career through a university system. I went to a university for about a year, studied architecture, and I soon learned after that that wasn't going to lead me to a rewarding career. I dropped out of college. My father helped me get into an apprenticeship program in the trade that he worked in. Because I enjoyed working with my hands, I did well in my program. After 3.5 years, I graduated as a journeyman. Soon after that, I began running jobs as a foreman. And for the last 20 years, I've been an elected union business representative, negotiating collective bargaining agreements and representing my members against discrimination of all sorts and kinds. This whole time, I was able to earn a decent wage, health insurance that covered my entire family, and a pension that someday I hope to be able to retire with, and I will live in dignity and continue adding to my community and not be a draw on it. Today, I'm not sure that my daughter or any grandchildren I may have will be able to follow that same path that I have that's led to my success. Here in the West, especially on the reservations in the small communities, the small rural towns, we've heard these promises of investment and jobs. When we talk to our brothers and sisters in North Minneapolis, Youngstown, Ohio, Harlan County, Kentucky, they tell us that they've experienced the same thing as us. We've been ripped off and left behind. Should Secretary Clinton become the next president of the United States, tell us what she would do to ensure that the resources we need make it to all corners of our region.
Thank you very much for the question. I appreciate that. And give him applause for the question. So I mean, this is the reality. We had an American bargain, an American promise that was becoming more and more real until we hit this wall. And I believe it was caused by massive policy shifts of this failed theory of trickle-down economics, where we gave bigger and bigger tax breaks, a bigger and bigger redirection of resources towards the wealthiest interests in our country. And we forgot the critical understanding that America is great and built from the middle class out, not from the rich down. This is a failed understanding of our society. And you and I both, maybe in different regions of the country, have watched its vicious impact on communities of color, on poor communities, year after year after year. We've seen less and less taxes being paid, awful realities like carried interest, which even other billionaires say there's no justification for someone working for a hedge fund and paying less in taxes and percentage of their income than their secretaries. All of this has taken money out of our system. Meanwhile, we built up a military-industrial complex. We, for the first time in American history, went to war and said, hey, only a small fraction of you are going to have to sacrifice for it by going. The rest of you we're going to give tax breaks that were, in many ways, tilted towards the wealthiest. And so what Hillary Clinton wants to do is to reset the American priorities to going back to investing in what grows America. And what I'm proud about her is, number one, she wants to transform the tax code again so that people are paying their fair share and that we begin to have the incentives, the tax incentives, to do the things that help this country grow, not just people get richer. And what does that mean? It means, number one, getting a real safety net. And a safety net means that if you work a full-time job, you shouldn't live in poverty. We need to raise the minimum wage. A safety net means that if your child is sick, like every other industrialized country, you should have paid family leave. It means you should have paycheck fairness, something that Hillary Clinton has stood up for. It means that we should have a nation that understands that we're the first generation. We inherited the first-class infrastructure from our grandparents, ranked #1 in the globe. Now we're ranked number 16, 18, depending on how you look, because we're not investing in the things that grow jobs. And so Hillary Clinton wants to have a massive investment in infrastructure again. And as I know as a mayor, that infrastructure investments create a tremendous return on investment. So this is about resetting our American economy to what used to work and ending the perversion of sending all the wealth, as we've seen, middle class wages stagnating for the last 15, 20 years, but making sure that we can grow true wealth in America that we all enjoy.
Thank you. Senator Booker, I want to follow up on this question.
Please.
Many scholars and commentators would argue that universal progressive policies are great, but unless they are targeted to the communities that need those investments the most, indigenous communities, communities of color, black communities, Latino communities, even poor rural communities, unless they're targeted, that universal policies, that rising tide does not actually lift all boats. So what would be Senator Clinton's and Secretary of State Clinton's response to the notion of targeted investments, particularly to the communities that have the highest rates of unemployment and decades of disinvestment?
You know, so first of all, there's and these are complicated things as a mayor, but this is what I relied on. Please understand, I took over one of the poorest cities, almost 60 years of exit of population, exit of investment, and by relying on a lot of federal programs that did target, we were able to reverse that trend. By the time I left as mayor, we were experiencing our biggest period of economic growth, working with unions and others, getting real jobs for our communities, building buildings and the like. So Secretary Clinton, who has tremendous experience in what it takes for inner city communities, for rural communities, supports things like new market tax credits, supports things like making sure that we are making critical infrastructure investments, supports things like making sure that we do the kind of tax incentives that draw in investment and draw in capital. And so literally, in addition to that, you have to begin to invest in this nation's greatest natural resource. In a global knowledge-based economy, don't let people tell you that it's oil or natural gas. The greatest natural resource in this country, which is the first priority for investment for Hillary Rodham Clinton, is people, is our children, is the future. And so the best targeted investments, and I know the data, the best targeted investments, if you want to turn around the economic fortunes for a family, is to begin to invest in our young people again. We have disinvested in our children. And so that means expanding Head Start, which Hillary Rodham Clinton wants to do. It means expanding prenatal care, preventative care, telemedicine for rural areas. It means expanding access to college and making sure that community college is free and that nobody ever gets saddled with outrageous debt again, like Hillary wants to do with the new college compact. It means making sure, like the other gentleman said, that we have apprenticeship programs in this country that are preparing people for the skills they need. So one is her experience in understanding what kind of targeted investments really does grow wealth and opportunity in rural, urban, and poor areas. And two, making a massive new agreement in America that we're going to start to supercharge the opportunities for our young people again in this economy.
Great, thank you.